Will not be seen tonight. Catch a special edition of Happy Days this Sunday at 5:30 here on TV5.
For 85 years, America has carried on a passionate love affair with the automobile. And from the very beginning, that romance helped Cleveland develop into a major automotive center and Northeast Ohio become a prosperous place to live and work. So to all of us in the greater Cleveland area, it's a very meaningful relationship.
But unfortunately, things aren't going very smoothly right now. And not surprisingly, today's economic situation is at the root of the problem.
Inflation has forced up the cost of acquiring a car and supporting it. Rising prices, high interest rates, fuel costs have all contributed to a momentary cooling off of the romance.
And Greater Cleveland has felt the impact. But is the romance really on the rocks? Well, we don't think so. There are already signs that consumer interest is reawakening. And we feel that better communication can make the relationship between you and your car more mature and understanding than it has ever been.
So tonight, we'll help you find out how much you really know or don't know about your partner, the car. So, gather up everybody around the house, get out your test forms, or just any piece of paper will do, and play along with us as we all take the Greater Cleveland Auto Test.
The Greater Cleveland Auto Test is presented in the public interest by the Automobile Dealers Educational Assistance Foundation and also by National City Bank, Ohio, Society National Bank, the Cleveland Press. Behind the wheel of tonight's Auto Test Tour de Force and keeping track of all the questions and answers will be Jeff Maynard and Wilma Smith. Oh yes, and our visiting expert, Otto. Otto's the one in the middle. During the show, you'll see cameo appearances by Merv Griffin, Phil Donahue, and Richard Simmons. You'll also join Dorothy Fuldheim for a special on-location perspective on the importance of Cleveland and the history of the automobile. Jim Bunn for on-the-spot interviews with Greater Clevelanders. Bill Jaycox and Eileen Corey for a look at the automotive industry and job-related fields in the Greater Cleveland area. Alan DePietro and Marge Banks for a lesson on how to buy and finance a new or used car and how to lease an automobile. Joel Rose and Jan Jones for tips on maintaining your car. Our two intrepid daredevils, Gib Shanley and Don Webster, for the secrets of driving safely and economically. And finally, Kathy Ciampa and Marty Gold for a look into the future of automobile design.
Hi, I'm Jeff Maynard. Wilma, Otto, and I will be your co-hosts for the Greater Cleveland Auto Test tonight. And it should be a lot of fun, right, Wilma?
Jeff, I'd like nothing better than to have a more meaningful relationship with my car, but right now, I'm not at all sure we even have an understanding. I think I need some counseling.
That's why I'm here, Wilma. I'm no dummy.
Well, thanks, Otto, but first I think we'd better tell everyone how to score on our test. We have 6 categories of questions with 4 to 10 questions in every category, either multiple choice or true and false. All questions and answers have been authenticated.
And Wilma will get the Greater Cleveland Auto Test rolling with questions about auto history right after this message.
The Automobile Dealers Educational Assistance Foundation is proud to be a sponsor of tonight's Greater Cleveland Auto Test. And we are proud of the educational programs that have helped Cleveland automobile dealers and their service departments operate more efficiently and more dependably for car buyers. The Educational Assistance Foundation has also helped make the annual Cleveland Auto Show one of the best in the country. And it has been responsible for civic contributions you may not even be aware of, things that have benefited all of us in the Cleveland area. For example, in the spring of 1980, the city of Cleveland began running short of police cruisers. 54 cruisers were out of commission. Some needed new brakes, some needed transmissions, some even needed new engines. But there was no money in the city budget to get these disabled cruisers back on the street. You've probably guessed who came to the rescue. The Auto Dealers Educational Assistance Foundation, which paid cash, contributed by every Cleveland automobile dealer in order to get Cleveland's cruisers back on patrol to protect our neighborhoods. Mayor Voinovich has said this of their efforts: "One of the great things about our city is the way our corporate citizens rise to the occasion when we need their help. I would like to publicly thank Cleveland's automobile dealers for their help in a time of great need.
The first section of our test is on the history of the car. How and where the first production car was born and how it took its first faltering steps.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Okay, Otto, we'll start out easy. Our first question is this. Who was the first automobile maker to produce cars in volume? A, Tris Speaker, B, Henry Ford, C, Alexander Winton, D, Ransom Olds, or E, Chevy Chase? The answer is C, Alexander Winton. In 1898, Winton built and sold 21 cars. And here at the Crawford Auto Museum of the Western Reserve Historical Society is Cleveland's First Lady of Television, Dorothy Fuldheim, to tell us about the historic milestone that established Cleveland as the first automobile manufacturing center in the world.
Well, I'm here in this gorgeous automobile. I'm not a pickup. I really know this man, whose name is Theodore Sandy. I'm delighted to be with you. What's your position?
Dorothy, I'm the executive director of the Western Reserve Historical Society, of which the Crawford Auto Aviation Museum is a part.
Do you know, I've never been in this kind of car. It's more like a buggy, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's actually an 1899 Winton.
Well, is it the first car that ran?
It's certainly the first Cleveland-built car, that is, the Winton was. In 1896, Mr. Alexander Winton began making automobiles, and in 1897, as a matter of fact, he drove a Winton that he had built from Cleveland to New York City. We're looking at really the evolution from the carriage to the enclosed automobile.
Well, Cleveland played quite a part in the production of cars, did it not?
It played an enormously significant part in the development of the automobile.
Have you any idea what this cost?
This car cost about $1,000 new. But you have to keep in mind that the standard of living of the day was, such that an average workman was perhaps earning $20, $25 a month.
I remember the first car I ever was in. I had a date with a guy that I didn't like, but he had a car. That was the most persuasive thing that could have happened, and it still is. Without automobiles, our whole society would have to change.
Dorothy, you're sitting in a 1909 white Model O. This is a Cleveland-made car, and it's a steam car. And I must say I feel considerably more comfortable with you sitting this time and me standing.
Oh, if you had this blanket on, this weighs, I can't even lift it. This was to keep them warm.
It was indeed.
What's it made out of?
It's made out of wool, and very heavy wool.
They must have been very sturdy to take this. I see they have a throttle, too.
That's right.
What does this control?
Well, that controls the steam in the engine, and thus controls the power that's transmitted to the wheels and drives the car.
Didn't this car take one of the presidents? Who was it, Taft?
Yes. William Howard Taft in 1910 had a white steamer. It was known as a snorter.
Have you got other cars to show me?
Yes, this is a 1904 Royal Tourist, and it was a car that was built as an expensive automobile, luxury automobile.
It's blue, I noticed.
It's blue rather than black, and very attractive, and begins to look like the modern automobile with the engine in front rather than under the seat, as we saw in several of the earlier models. And that's our horn. The Royal Tourist people were the first to put the horn inside on the steering wheel and with the horn underneath.
This is the way they announced that they were coming. The cows would get out of the way, the horses, the people. But it's tough. They made everything hard. Wasn't it? It's difficult. Oh, you got your arm around me.
Yes, I have.
We've been together. We've been in all these automobiles. He's made love to me in each one. Which one is this?
This, as we saw in several of the earlier models. And that's our horn. The Royal Tourist people were the first to put the horn inside on the steering wheel and with the horn underneath.
This is the way they announced that they were coming. The cows would get out of the way, the horses, the people. But it's tough. They made everything hard. Wasn't it? It's difficult. Oh, you got your arm around me.
Yes, I have.
We've been together. We've been in all these automobiles. He's made love to me in each one. Which one is this?
This is a 1902 Oldsmobile. And although it was not built in Cleveland, it's a Detroit car. It was the product of Ransom Eli Olds, who was born near Palma and who was educated in the Cleveland school system. It was considered a very, very popular car of its day. And it was the subject of a very, very popular song.
Oh, yeah,
of the
what
day.
was that song?
In My Merry Oldsmobile.
Shall we take another ride soon?
I hope so, in the very near future.
What car do you think we should use?
I think perhaps we can move up to a more modern car.
A Rolls Royce, please.
All right.
If you haven't got one, don't come around for me.
We have several.
You know, I've spent an extraordinary couple of hours here. This industry, which changed the pattern of the world. Poets and writers can never write again as they did before this. It gave us a new dimension to our economy. It created millions of jobs. It extended our horizons and our visions. And to the men in the early days who made this possible, we owe, it seems to me, a great gratitude. But we also owe a gratitude to the expertise of the period in which we live, in which the automobile is made more careful, safer, and available for people with limited means. From here, I think that probably 50 years from now, someone will be here showing the airplanes that have come down to being used every day in addition to automobiles. It's a great period, and it's a period in which men have shown that their ingenuity, their dreams, can become a reality. And for this, I think this generation owes those of the past a great sense of gratitude.
Thank you, Dorothy. And now let's get on to our next historical question. Question number 2 is, how many different makes of automobiles were produced in the Cleveland, Northeast Ohio area between 1892 and 1932? Is it A, 10, B, 50, C, 75, or D, 115? The answer is D, 115 different makes of cars. In fact, back in 1903, Cleveland was not only the leading automobile manufacturer in America, more automobiles were owned by Clevelanders in proportion to population than any other city in the world.
Wilma, did you know that Henry Ford was not the first man to mass-produce cars? It was Ransom Olds. In my merry Oldsmobile.
Well, on that note, let me tell you there were a lot of things developed right here in Cleveland. The first automobile windshield wiper, the first hydraulic aero-type shock absorber, the first gas-powered bus, the first station wagon, and one of the first electrical cars. In fact, our next question is about the Cleveland Electric, manufactured by Cleveland inventor Elmer A. Sperry in 1899. How many miles could the first Cleveland electric car travel before recharging? A, 100 miles, B, 50 miles, C, 25 miles, or D, 10 miles? Well, believe it or not, the answer is A, 100 miles. And when modern electric cars can get that kind of a charge out of their batteries, we may see a lot more of them buzzing around town.
But here's one more question before we move along to modern times. True or false this time? The first American-made all-steel auto body was produced in Cleveland. The answer is true. It was produced right here in Cleveland for the Eastman automobile.
Well, I was in your city last summer, and believe me, I saw some terrific bodies. You're really shaping up, Cleveland.
Well, that concludes our first section of the Greater Cleveland Auto Test. If you had 3 correct answers, consider yourself very knowledgeable. If you got all 4, you're either very lucky or you're a history whiz.
The Greater Cleveland Auto Test will continue with our next category, auto-related jobs, right after this message.
Society's super banking card will now pay some bills. 1, 2, 3. Add to savings, simple as can be. Put cash in hand, show the balance, and you're super banking the fastest way, night or day. Now you see, the card is the key to easy banking at Society.